By the time I reached Hollow Creek, my thighs were stiff, my lower back hated me, and the last gas station coffee I'd bought had officially become a crime against God and good sense. The town appeared between the mountains like it had been tucked there on purpose. One main road, a little white church, a diner with red shutters, a hardware store with rocking chairs out front, as if men with opinions came included with every purchase. Then the road narrowed, climbing toward the trees. My aunt's cabin waited at the end of RedMoon Ridge Road. I stopped the car and kept both hands on the steering wheel for a minute. The place was smaller than I remembered and bigger than I was ready for. It sat back from the gravel drive, all dark timber, green trim, and a stone chimney that leaned just enough to look stubborn. The porch sagged at one corner. Wildflowers had bullied their way through the old garden beds. Moss softened the roof. The woods pressed close around the property, thick with pine and oak, and shadows that looked deeper than they should have in the afternoon light. I had inherited a cabin, 6 acres, and, apparently, an entire forest that looked like it knew my business. "Okay, Aunt Ruth," I whispered. "I'm here." Grief moved through me, quiet and sharp. My aunt had been the kind of woman who remembered everyone's birthday, fed strangers, and somehow made being alone in the woods seem like a perfectly reasonable lifestyle choice. When I was little, I thought she was magic, because she knew when rain was coming before the clouds did. Now she was gone, and the cabin was mine. Mine. After years of city apartments, overdue bills, people needing pieces of me, and family members calling only when something was broken, that word felt strange, heavy, dangerous. I got out of the car and stretched until my spine popped. Lord, thank you for mountains, fresh air, and the continued function of my knees. A grunt came from the porch. I jerked so hard my hoop earrings slapped my jaw. An older man stood beside the front steps, wearing a faded flannel shirt, muddy boots, and an expression that suggested he had been personally disappointed by the entire human race. "You, Lillian?" he asked. I pressed a hand to my chest. "Do you always appear silently near grieving women, or am I special?" "Didn't appear, been standing here." "That is not the defense you think it is," he grunted again. "You must be Amos," I said. "Read." He stepped down from the porch and held out a ring of keys. "Caretaker." I took them. His hand was rough, warm, and quick to let go. Aunt Ruth had mentioned Amos in letters. Never with much explanation, just Amos fixed the north fence, or Amos brought firewood, or Amos says the raccoons are unionizing. I had pictured someone grumpy. I had not pictured someone who looked like he might chase burglars with a shovel and win. "Thank you for looking after the place," I said. He gave the cabin a brief look. Didn't look after it enough. The porch creaked in agreement. I glanced at the leaning steps, the overgrown side path, the vines curling up the railing. It has character. It has rot. Well, character with moisture issues. His mouth twitched. Almost a smile, then gone. He pointed toward the edge of the yard, where old stones poked through the moss in a crooked line. Some were no taller than my ankle. Others reached my knee, dark and weather-worn, half swallowed by roots. "Don't move those." I looked back at him. "The rocks? Markers?" "For what?" "Property." I eyed the line. That is the least straight property line I've ever seen. "Still don't move 'em." "Is this a legal warning or a mountain warning?" "Yes." I waited for more. Amos did not provide more. "Right," I said slowly. "Leave the weird rocks alone." "Anything else?" "Woods get confusing after dark. Stay close to the cabin until you know the paths." "I'm a grown woman, Amos." "So was your aunt." That landed harder than I expected. I looked away first, pretending to study the porch. He cleared his throat, softer this time. "Back door sticks. Pump's old but works. Roof don't leak unless rain comes sideways. Porch steps loose. Anything in this house not trying to kill me?" "Kitchen table's solid." Comforting. Amos started toward an old pickup parked near the side of the drive. "Wait," I called. "You're leaving?" Got things to do. I just got here. You got keys. That is a very minimalist welcome. He opened the truck door. Groceries are in the pantry. Firewood stacked out back. If something breaks, don't fix it after dark. I frowned. Why? He looked toward the trees. For the first time, his gruff expression changed. Not fear, exactly. Something tighter. Older. Just don't. Before I could ask another question, he climbed into the truck and drove off, tires crunching over gravel. I stood in the yard alone, holding the keys, staring after him. Well, I said to the cabin, he's delightful. The cabin did not disagree. It took 3 trips to start unloading the car. By the 4th, sweat had gathered beneath my bra. My curls were escaping the scarf I'd tied around them, and I was reconsidering every life choice that had led me to packing cast-iron skillets in the same box as books. I lifted the next box against my hip and marched toward the porch with determination and poor judgment. The first step groaned. The second step dipped. The third step gave a sharp crack. A deep voice behind me said, "I wouldn't put your full weight there." I froze. Then I very carefully turned my head. A man stood at the edge of the drive with a toolbox in one hand. Not just a man. A tall, broad-shouldered, dark-haired problem with rolled-up sleeves, a square jaw, and eyes that seemed almost golden in the late sun. His black t-shirt clung to him in a way that made me deeply aware of my own heartbeat. He looked like he chopped wood, paid taxes on time, and knew exactly what he was doing with his hands. Which was unfair. Men should have to pick too. I tightened my grip on the box. "And you are?" His gaze moved over my face, not rudely, but with a focus that made the space between us feel smaller. Adrian Wolfe. The name hit some old memory. Aunt Ruth's letters. A passing mention. Adrian brought cedar boards. Adrian checked the south fence. Adrian says the weather will turn. Of course he was Adrian. Of course Aunt Ruth had failed to mention that Adrian looked like he belonged on the cover of a calendar titled, "Men Who Can Ruin Your Peace." "My aunt's neighbor," I said. "Yes. Do you also materialize out of nowhere, or is that a Hollow Creek tradition?" His mouth curved. "I used the road. I'm starting to think people around here define appearing very loosely." He came closer, and the box in my arms suddenly felt much heavier. Adrian set his toolbox down near the steps and nodded toward the cracked board. "That step is loose. So I've been told. You could call someone." "I planned to." "You could," he said, calm as Sunday morning. "But then I'd have to watch you fall through it while pretending I didn't know better, and that feels rude." I stared at him. He stared back. Unfortunately, he was funny. I did not have the emotional stability for funny and handsome in the same man. "I don't remember asking for help," I said. "No." "But you brought tools." "I'm optimistic." "That's one word for it." "Prepared is another." I shifted the box. "And if I say no?" His expression changed just a little. Not offended, not challenged. Like he had expected the question and respected it. "Then I leave the tools here, tell you which boards are dangerous, and get out of your way." That answer was annoyingly reasonable. "Were you this helpful with my aunt?" "Yes." "Did she let you get away with it?" "Rarely." That made my chest ache. I looked at the porch, then at the box, then at the man who looked like he could lift my refrigerator with one hand and still have enough energy left to judge my porch. "Fine," I said. "You can fix the steps. But if this is some small-town thing where everyone decides I'm helpless because I'm new, I will become unpleasant." His smile deepened. "Noted. And I'm not paying in pies. I don't require pie." Suspicious. "I accept coffee. The coffee I have is from a gas station and tastes like a punishment." "Then I'll fix the steps for free." Smart man. He reached for the box. "May I?" I should have said no on principle. Unfortunately, my arms were seconds from filing a formal complaint. "Yes. Thank you." His fingers brushed mine when he took it. A strange warmth moved through me, quick and startling. I pulled my hand back and flexed my fingers, like that would make me normal again. Adrian carried the box inside, as if it weighed nothing. When he stepped into the cabin, he paused at the threshold. It was brief. Barely anything. But I noticed. "You okay?" I asked. He looked over his shoulder. "Yes." "You stopped." "Old habit." "What habit?" His eyes flicked toward the interior of the cabin, then back to me. "Respecting your aunt's house." That softened me when I did not want to be softened. Inside, dust floated in the beams of light spilling through the windows. The furniture was covered in white sheets. The air smelled like cedar, old books, and lavender. Aunt Ruth's presence lingered in every corner so strongly that for one breath I expected her to walk in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. Adrian set the box on the floor. "She loved this place," he said quietly. I looked at him. "You knew her well?" "Well enough." That was an answer with a locked door behind it. Before I could knock, he went back outside and knelt by the broken porch step. I watched him work because I was supervising, not because his forearms flexed every time he used the hammer, not because his jeans fit like temptation had taken measurements. Supervising. After a few minutes, he glanced up. "You're quiet. I'm deciding whether you're trustworthy." "And?" "The jury is distracted by your competence." He laughed, low and warm. The sound rolled through me in a way I had no intention of examining. A breeze moved through the yard, carrying the scent of pine. Somewhere deep in the woods, a bird gave a sharp cry, then went silent. Adrian's head lifted. The change in him was instant. His shoulders tightened. His gaze locked on the trees beyond the stone markers. I followed his stare. "What is it?" "Nothing." That was a very tense nothing. He stood, hammer still in hand. For one strange second, he looked less like a helpful neighbor and more like something guarding the edge of the world. Then he blinked, and the man returned. "Just listening," he said. "To what?" "The woods." I waited. He did not elaborate. Apparently, vague warnings were the local currency. When the step was fixed, Adrian packed his tools and brushed sawdust from his hands. "There," he said. "Structurally sound." Emotionally, his mouth twitched. "Still suspicious." I hated that I smiled. He picked up his toolbox and looked toward the markers. "Amos told you not to move the stones?" "Yes, is that a popular hobby around here? Rock preservation?" "They've stood a long time." "That is also not an explanation." "No," he said. "It isn't." Our eyes met. The air between us shifted again, quiet and charged. I was suddenly very aware of the fact that I was alone in the mountains with a man I had just met, and somehow my instincts were not screaming danger. They were doing something much more inconvenient. They were leaning closer. Adrian stepped back first. "Welcome home, Lillian." My name in his mouth sounded too intimate for a first conversation. I swallowed. "Thank you, Adrian." He headed down the drive, then stopped and turned. "One more thing. Let me guess, don't go into the woods after dark." His brows lifted. "Amos mentioned it?" "He did." "Good." I put a hand on my hip. "Do the woods have a curfew?" "They have teeth." I laughed because I thought he was joking. Adrian did not laugh. Then he gave me a small nod and walked away, disappearing down the gravel road toward the trees. That evening, after I ate canned soup over the solid kitchen table and admitted Amos had told the truth about at least one thing, I started unpacking Aunt Ruth's old writing desk. In the bottom drawer, beneath a stack of yellowed recipes, I found an envelope with my name on it. Lillian. My throat tightened. I sat down slowly and slid my finger under the flap. The letter smelled faintly like lavender. Most of it was Aunt Ruth telling me she loved me, telling me not to let guilt make my decisions, telling me the cabin was mine only if I wanted it to be. I cried through those parts quietly, wiping my cheeks with the heel of my hand. Then I reached the final line. My tears stopped. I read it once, then again, If Adrian Wolfe tells you the truth, listen. But make him explain himself first. Outside, somewhere beyond the porch in the old stone markers, a wolf howled. By morning, Aunt Ruth's letter had officially ruined my sleep. I sat at the kitchen table with my second cup of coffee, the letter spread out in front of me like it had personally insulted me. If Adrian Wolfe tells you the truth, listen. But make him explain himself first. That was not a normal thing to write to your niece. A normal final letter said things like, I love you, or the good china is in the cabinet, or don't let Amos bully you about the porch. It did not casually mention handsome neighbors and mysterious truths like the opening line of a horror movie. I tapped one finger against the paper. What truth, Aunt Ruth? The cabin answered with a creak from somewhere upstairs. Helpful. A knock sounded at the front door. I looked down at myself. Leggings, oversized t-shirt, scarf half slipping off my curls, no bra, and the general expression of a woman who had slept 3.5 hours and spent the rest of the night wondering if her dead aunt had left her a riddle or a nervous breakdown. The knock came again. Coming, I called, grabbing my robe from the back of a chair. When I opened the door, Adrian Wolfe stood on my porch, holding a box of screws, a drill, and 2 paper cups of coffee. Of course he did. The morning sun hit him from behind, turning his dark hair into a mess of soft shadows and making his shoulders look even broader than they had any right to be. He wore jeans, work boots, and a gray shirt that looked ordinary until it had to survive being stretched across his chest. My body noticed. My common sense filed a complaint. Good morning, he said. I narrowed my eyes. Do you wake up like this? Like what? Already useful. His mouth twitched. Usually. That's alarming. He lifted one of the cups. I brought coffee, not gas station punishment. I stared at the cup, then at him, then at the cup again. I'm trying to be suspicious of you. You can do that with better coffee. Damn him. I stepped aside. Fine, but if you drugged it, I'm haunting you first. Fair. He stopped at the threshold again. There it was. That slight pause. The quiet lowering of his gaze, almost like he was asking permission from the house itself before entering. I noticed. Again. You keep doing that, I said. His eyes came back to mine. Doing what? Stopping before you come in. I'm being polite. That is the official explanation. It's the one I'm giving you. I accepted the coffee from him, but did not move out of the doorway. Adrian? Yes. My aunt told me to make you explain yourself. Something shifted in his face. Not much. If I had not been watching, I would have missed it. But I saw the humor fade, saw the guarded stillness take its place. She did? He asked. In a letter. His jaw tightened, then eased. Ruth always did like timing things badly. So there is something to explain. There are several things. And none of them are best said while you're barefoot in a robe holding coffee before breakfast. I looked down at my fuzzy socks. That is rude, but accurate. I'll fix the back lock today, he said. Then the loose board by the pantry. After that, if you still want answers, we'll talk. You think repairing things earns you conversational delays? No, I think you'll listen better when your door's locked properly. I did not like how reasonable that was. I also did not like how warm the coffee felt in my hands, or how much I wanted him to stay. You're very bossy for a man who keeps pretending he isn't bossy. I'm trying to be helpful. Helpful people answer questions. Alive people lock doors. We stared at each other. I sighed and stepped back. Fix the lock. His smile returned, small and unfairly pleased. Yes, ma'am. The thing about Adrian was, he did not hover. That should not have impressed me as much as it did. Too many men confused help with ownership. They stepped in, took over, explained your own life to you, then expected gratitude because they had lifted something heavy. Adrian was different. He asked before moving furniture. He told me which boards were rotten, but waited for me to agree before pulling them up. When I said I wanted to unpack the pantry myself, he nodded and left me alone. Still, he was everywhere. By noon, the back door locked without needing prayer. The pantry board no longer threatened to swallow my foot. The kitchen window stopped sticking. He checked the side fence and crouched beside the line of old stones near the trees. I watched from the porch with a glass of water in one hand. He did not cross the stones. Not once. He walked along them, studying the mossy line with a seriousness that made the little hairs on my arms rise. When he reached one marker that had tilted nearly sideways, he knelt, set both hands around it, and eased it upright with surprising care. "Those really matter to you," I said. He glanced back. "They mattered to Ruth." "That is not the same thing." "No," he said, "but it's close." Before I could ask more, tires crunched up the drive. A sheriff's department SUV rolled to a stop behind my car, and a tall man in a tan deputy uniform climbed out with a paper bag in one hand. Andrew Pierce had grown into his shoulders. The last time I saw him, years ago, he had been a lanky boy who came by Aunt Ruth's for lemonade after mowing half the town's lawns. Now he had a badge at his hip, a careful gaze, and the same warm brown eyes that had always made him look like he was seconds away from asking if you needed anything. "Lillian Hart," he called. "You come back to Hollow Creek and don't even tell me?" I smiled despite myself. "Andrew Pierce. Look at you, all official." He came up the porch steps and hugged me with one arm, careful and familiar. "I brought biscuits from the diner. Figured you hadn't eaten anything but stress." "That is slander." "Is it wrong?" "No, but it's still slander." His laugh softened something in my chest. He smelled like cedar soap, road dust, and diner coffee. Safe, in the way old friends could be safe. Then his gaze moved past me. Adrian had gone still near the stones. Andrew's smile thinned. "Wolfe." "Deputy," Adrian said. The temperature did not change, but it felt like it did. I looked between them. "Oh, good. Do we have history?" "No," Andrew said. "Some," Adrian said at the same time. I gave them both a flat look. "If either of you starts measuring dicks, antlers, or whatever mountain men use to establish dominance, I'm going inside and eating all the biscuits myself," Andrew blinked. Adrian's mouth twitched. "Understood," Adrian said. Andrew cleared his throat. "I just came to check on you." "That's nice," I said. "See? A normal sentence." He handed me the bag, but kept his eyes on Adrian. "There've been some reports up near the ridge. Missing hikers, strange animal sightings, a couple of traps found off the county trail." "Traps?" I asked. "Old hunting snares, maybe. Could be poachers." Andrew's face tightened. "Until we know, don't wander too far, especially not alone." I looked over at Adrian. "Is there a class everyone took about telling me not to go into the woods?" Adrian folded his arms. "You'd remember if there was a class." Andrew frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I agree with you," Adrian said mildly. "You usually don't. Today is special." I held up a hand. "No, absolutely not. I am too hungry for masculine tension." Andrew looked at me. Don't Lil me in that deputy voice." His expression softened. "I'm serious. Just be careful." "I can be careful." Adrian's eyes met mine, quiet and unreadable. I believe that. For some reason, that mattered. Andrew stayed long enough to drink coffee, inspect the locks Adrian had fixed with the critical eye of a man who wanted to find fault, and couldn't, then warn me 3 more times about the woods. Adrian left soon after, taking his tools and that watchful silence with him. By evening, the cabin felt less like a stranger, and more like a stubborn old relative. I unpacked dishes, found Aunt Ruth's stash of tea, and ate biscuits over the sink because I was a grown woman and could make bad choices in peace. Just before dark, I stepped onto the porch. The woods stood black and thick beyond the yard. The old stone markers curved along the edge like a broken necklace. Then I saw it. A wolf stood between 2 pines, huge, dark still. My breath caught. It was too large to be real. Its shoulders reached higher than any wolf I'd ever seen on a nature documentary, and its eyes caught the porch light with a strange, intelligent glow. Not an animal. Not exactly. I gripped the porch railing. Hello? Because apparently that was what I said to giant predators now. The wolf did not move. My heart hammered so hard I felt it in my throat. This is private property, I added, which was possibly the dumbest thing anyone had ever said to a wolf. Its ears flicked. Then, slowly, it stepped back into the trees and disappeared. I did not sleep much that night either. At sunrise, I marched outside in boots, robe, and determination, following the damp grass to the place where the wolf had stood. There were prints in the mud, but they were not paw prints. I crouched, my stomach tightening. In the damp earth below, exactly where the wolf had stood, were 2 human footprints. By mid-morning, I had accepted 3 facts. 1, the coffee in Aunt Ruth's pantry was strong enough to interrogate criminals. 2, I was not emotionally prepared to deal with human footprints where a giant wolf had been standing. 3, everyone in Hollow Creek was absolutely full of shit. Not regular shit either. Mountain shit. The kind that came wrapped in warnings, old stones, and handsome men who paused before entering houses like they expected the walls to bite. I sat cross-legged on the living room floor with Aunt Ruth's journals spread around me. At first, they were painfully normal. Rain today. Beans need staking. Amos grumbled about the fence again. Adrian brought cedar, made apple butter. Then the entries changed. Not all at once. Just enough to make my skin prickle. Moonwell is steady tonight. Boundary held through storm. RedMoon wolves restless near the North Ridge. Found silver in the soil by the stream. Removed it before it burned through. If Lillian ever comes here, she must choose with full knowledge. No one is to decide for her. I read that line 7 times. No one is to decide for her, I whispered. Good. At least Aunt Ruth and I were on the same page about that. The word Moonwell appeared again and again, always without explanation, like I was supposed to know what the hell a Moonwell was. The RedMoon Wolves sounded like either a local biker gang or the worst nature documentary in history. Near the back of one journal, I found a folded map. It showed the cabin, the old stone markers, the garden beds, and a narrow path leading toward a stream. Aunt Ruth had drawn little notes along the edges. Wild mint by the bend. Good for tea. Do not cross after dark. Stay this side of the marked ash tree. See? I told the empty room. Instructions. I can follow instructions. I was not about to go wandering blindly into haunted wolf woods like the first idiot in a horror movie. I put on jeans, thick socks, my boots, and a long-sleeved shirt. I packed water, the map, my phone, a pocket knife from the kitchen drawer, and 1 granola bar that had probably expired during the Obama administration. Then I stood in the doorway and looked out at the trees. Daylight poured over the yard. Birds called from the branches. The old stone markers sat exactly where they had been, crooked and smug. I am going to pick mint, I announced. Not uncover a curse, not get murdered. Not chase suspicious wolves. Mint. The woods did not answer, which I appreciated. The path began behind the shed and curved through pines, ferns, and mossy stones. It was narrow, but clear enough that Aunt Ruth must have walked it often. The air smelled damp and green, and every step took me farther from the sensible part of my brain. Still, I stayed on the path. I checked the map twice. I did not cross the marked ash tree. Practical? Careful? Alive. The stream announced itself before I saw it, water rushing over stone in a soft, constant murmur. Sunlight flashed through the trees ahead. I stepped around a cluster of ferns, already thinking mint tea might be worth the weirdness. Then I heard splashing. I stopped. Not deer splashing, not raccoon splashing, human splashing. A low breath left me. Common sense said turn around. Curiosity, that messy bitch, said look first. I moved behind a thick pine and peered around it. Adrian Wolfe stood waist-deep in the stream. Naked. Completely, irresponsibly naked. Water ran over his shoulders, down the hard lines of his back, over muscle that looked less made and more carved. His dark hair was wet, pushed away from his face. Sunlight caught on his skin. He looked like something ancient had stepped out of the mountain because regular human beauty had gotten boring. I should have left. Immediately. I did not. Instead, I stood behind a tree like a criminal and stared at that man's back as if it had personally solved my problems. He turned slightly, reaching for a cloth on a rock, and I got a devastating view of his chest, his stomach, and the cut of muscle leading lower. My soul briefly left my body to speak with the ancestors. "We all die someday," I muttered under my breath. "I suppose there's no harm in appreciating the Lord's craftsmanship while I'm still here." Then the water shifted. I saw enough. Not everything, but enough. My mouth went dry. "Mercy," I whispered. "That is not a man. That is a structural concern." Adrian went still. Every part of me locked. Slowly, very slowly, he turned his head toward my tree, his mouth curved. "Shit. You like what you're seeing, Lillian?" I closed my eyes. Maybe if I stayed still, the earth would open kindly and swallow me whole. "No," I called back, because apparently lying badly was my emergency response. "I saw nothing. You commented on the structure." "I was talking about a bridge." "In the woods?" "A metaphorical bridge." "Behind a tree?" "I enjoy privacy when discussing infrastructure." His laugh rolled over the water, low and unfair. I stepped back, trying to preserve what remained of my dignity. "I am leaving now." "That may be wise." "I hope a fish bites you." "Anywhere specific?" "Do not flirt with me while you're naked in a creek." "Stream." I know what I said. I turned too fast. My boot caught on a root. For one suspended second, I windmilled like a fool, grabbing at air, branches, dignity, anything. Then the bank disappeared beneath me. I slid down the muddy slope with a yelp, hit the shallow edge of the stream, and splashed in hard enough to offend every living thing within a mile. Cold water swallowed my hips. Fuck! Adrian moved before I finished the word. 1 second he was in the middle of the stream. The next, he was there, hauling me upright with hands firm around my waist. My palms landed on his chest, wet, warm, solid, very naked, very close. My body, traitor that it was, noticed every inch of contact. His thighs brushed mine under the water. His arms held me like I weighed nothing, which was rude because I had hips, breasts, thighs, and the kind of ass that made cheap folding chairs question their purpose. Yet Adrian held me steady without strain. His eyes searched my face. "Are you hurt?" "My pride is dead." "Anything else?" "My common sense is on life support." "Lillian." The way he said my name pulled my attention back to him. "No," I admitted. "I don't think I'm hurt." His hands eased but did not let go until he was sure I had my footing. "For the record," he said, "if your plan was to throw yourself into my arms, there are easier ways." Heat rushed up my neck. "For the record, if my plan involved your arms, I would not have included mud in my underwear." His smile flashed. Then my gaze dropped. There was a wound along his side. A thin, angry line crossed his ribs, red at the edges like a burn. It should have been bleeding. It looked fresh, mean, painful. But even as I stared, the skin pulled together. Not slowly, not normally. It healed. Right in front of me. My breath caught. "Adrian?" His expression changed. He followed my gaze and released me fully, stepping back just enough to put space between us. "You should get out of the water." "No, absolutely not. We are not doing that thing where I ask a question, and you answer with a weather report." I pointed at his side. "What the hell is that?" "A cut." "That is not a cut. That is a cut committing fraud." He looked toward the bank, and something in his body tightened. Not embarrassment, alarm. "Stay behind me," he said. I hated how quickly the softness left his voice. The teasing neighbor vanished. The man in front of me became sharp, focused, dangerous in a way that made the woods seem to hold its breath. "What is it?" I asked. He climbed from the stream without a hint of shame, grabbed his jeans from a rock, and pulled them on fasto a set. I turned my head because I still had manners, despite recent evidence. When I looked back, Adrian was crouched near the muddy bank. Half hidden under leaves attached to a bent sapling was a loop of wire. At first it looked harmless, then sunlight caught it. Silver. The air around it felt wrong. Adrian did not touch it. His jaw flexed, and a low sound moved through his chest. Not quite a growl. Too close to one. I stepped nearer. Is that a snare? Yes. For animals? His eyes lifted to mine. They looked almost gold. No, he said quietly. Not what? A chill moved through me that had nothing to do with wet clothes. Who? I whispered. Adrian stood between me and the trees, water still dripping from his hair, his body coiled like violence waiting for permission. Lillian, he said, voice controlled and deadly calm. We need to go. Now.
We need to go. Now. The silver snare lay under the leaves like a small, patient mouth. It was not thick. It did not need to be. Silver did not have to be impressive to ruin a wolf. A wire that thin could cut through fur, skin, tendon and bone if panic made someone fight it. It would burn the whole way in, and Lillian had been close enough to touch it. My wolf slammed against my ribs. Mine. No, not mine, not unless she chose it. That old instinct was useful in a fight, and a complete dick everywhere else. It wanted me to pick her up, carry her to the cabin, lock the doors, and put my body between her and the rest of the world. Lillian Hart did not need a cage. She needed the truth. I stepped between her and the trees anyway. Can you walk? I asked. She stared at the wire, then at me. Her clothes were soaked, mud streaked one cheek, and her curls had started escaping around her face in damp, stubborn spirals. I'm wet, embarrassed, and furious, she said. Not broken. Good. Do not sound relieved. I am still mad. I assumed. That got half a glare, which was better than fear. I grabbed my shirt from the rock and held it out to her. Put this on. Her eyes narrowed. Is this a safety suggestion or a modesty suggestion? Both. Convenient. Usually. She snatched the shirt from my hand and pulled it over her wet clothes. It swallowed her shoulders and hung low on her thighs. My wolf settled by a fraction, which was irritatingly easy of him. I took my phone from the folded clothes near the bank and sent a message to Laura and 2 patrol wolves. North Stream, silver snare, no pause, bring tongs, sweep perimeter. Lillian watched me. Did you just text someone about the murder jewelry? Yes. That is not the explanation you think it is. No, I said, but it is the safest one until we're away from it. Her jaw tightened, but she nodded. That was Lillian, angry, afraid, and still thinking. We moved through the woods fast, but I did not drag her. I wanted to. I wanted her behind me, then beside me, then nowhere near the damn tree line at all. Instead, I matched her pace and kept myself between her and every shadow that moved wrong. By the time we reached her cabin, the sun had shifted lower, and the old stones around the property held the light like they remembered fire. Lillian stopped at the porch. I stopped with her. She looked at me, then at the door. You do that every time. Do what? Pause before you come inside. I could have lied. I was tired of lying. The house was your aunt's, I said. Now it's yours. I don't cross unless I'm welcome. Her expression changed, not softened, not exactly, but something in her stopped bracing for a fight. Come in, Adrian, she said, and explain why that sounded like vampire nonsense. I stepped over the threshold. Wrong monsters. She froze. Damn, subtle had never been my strongest quality. Inside, she wrapped herself in a blanket while I built a fire because my hands needed something to do, and fixing things was better than pacing holes through her floor. "You are stress-stacking firewood," she said. "I'm making a fire. You place the logs by height. Airflow matters." "Bullshit." I almost smiled. Then she sat at the kitchen table, blanket around her shoulders, and looked me dead in the face. No more warnings. No more mountain man mystery. No more telling me to stay out of the woods without explaining why. Her voice shook once, then steadied. "You said that trap was for a who. Start there." So I did. Werewolves exist. She stared at me. The cabin creaked. Somewhere outside, a bird called like even it thought I had handled that badly. Lillian blinked once. "I'm going to give you one chance to say that differently." "I am a werewolf." "Nope," she said. "That was worse. I'm also alpha of the RedMoon Pack." She pressed her fingers to her forehead. "Of course you are. Your aunt knew." That brought her hand down. The humor left her face. "Ruth knew?" "Yes." "Was she afraid of you?" "No." "Did you hurt her?" The question cut, but she had a right to ask it. "No," I said. "Never." Her eyes searched mine, sharp and hurt and too damn trusting for someone who had every reason not to be. "What was she?" "The keeper." "Of what?" "The Moonwell." Lillian leaned back slowly. "Adrian. Your cabin sits above it, an old source of magic tied to the mountain. The stones mark the boundary. Your aunt helped keep that boundary strong. It hides my people, protects the land, keeps silver from crossing where it shouldn't." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "You understand how much this sounds like cult bullshit?" "Yes." "Good, because my bullshit meter is screaming." "I expected that." "The wolf I saw," she said, "at the trees. Was that you?" I held her gaze. "Yes." Her mouth opened, closed. Then she pointed at me. "I told you this was private property. I remember. You let me say that to a werewolf. You seemed committed. For 1 second I saw it. The smallest flicker of a smile. Then it vanished. The healing," she said. "Your side at the stream. Werewolves heal fast. Silver slows it, sometimes stops it. That snare could have killed you." "Yes." "Or someone in your pack." "Yes." She looked toward the floor, toward the old boards and the secrets beneath them. "And my aunt left me in the middle of it." "She wanted you to have a choice," I said. "She made me promise to protect whoever inherited this cabin. She believed you deserved the truth, but not before you decided whether to stay." Lillian's laugh was quiet and humorless. She always did make things complicated. "She loved you." Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. "I know." A knock came at the back door. Lillian jolted. "It's Laura," I said. "Pack healer. Does everyone around here arrive like they're part of a conspiracy?" "Yes," Laura said through the door. "But I brought tea, so I'm the friendly branch." Lillian stared at me. I sighed and opened the door. Laura Bennett entered with a medical bag, a thermos, and the expression she used when she wanted me to know I had disappointed her professionally. She looked Lillian over with warm, assessing eyes. "You must be Lillian. And you must be the werewolf doctor." "Healer," Laura said, "but close enough." Lillian nodded once. "I'm not fainting." "Good. I hate catching people. Adrian is better at it and he gets smug. I do not." "You absolutely do." Lillian looked between us, and some of the panic in the room loosened. Not gone. Loosened. When the moon rose, I took her to the clearing east of the cabin, just inside the boundary. Laura stayed nearby, visible, calm and ready if Lillian panicked. I stood several yards away. You can leave at any time, I told Lillian. Say the word and this stops. She hugged the blanket around herself. I asked for proof. I know. Then prove it. I stripped because shifting in clothes was expensive and stupid. Lillian made a strangled sound and turned her head. This day has featured a lot more of your dick than I scheduled. Laura coughed into her fist. Despite everything, my mouth twitched. The wolf ruins genes. I am not arguing with the logic. I'm complaining about the scheduling. Fair. Then I let the wolf come. The shift hurt. It always did. Anyone who claimed changing forms was graceful had either never done it or was a lying asshole. Bone cracked, muscle tore and remade. Heat roared through my blood, and the world sharpened into scent, sound, moonlight, heartbeat. When it was done, I stood on 4 paws. Lillian took 1 step back. Only 1. Her fear hit my nose, sharp and honest. Beneath it was lavender, stream water, coffee, and that warm stubbornness that had been driving me insane since she arrived. I lowered my head. I did not move closer. She stared at me, breathing hard. Adrian, I huffed softly. Her hand lifted, then stopped halfway. I am not petting my neighbor until I have processed that my neighbor has paws. Laura muttered, I like her. So did I. Too much. I shifted back behind the trees and reached for the blanket Laura tossed me. Before I could wrap it around myself, Lillian stepped forward and did it. Her hands were steady. That almost undid me. She looked up at me, eyes wide but clear, and said, I'm going to need tea before I start screaming. I can make tea. Of course you can. You probably fix kettles when you're sad. Only if they rattle. A laugh escaped her before she could stop it. Then I told her the last truth I owed her that night. My wolf recognized you as my mate. She went very still. I kept my voice calm. That does not mean I own you. It does not mean you owe me anything. Fate can knock, Lillian. You decide whether to open the door. And if I don't, then I protect you because I promised Ruth, and because it's right. If you want distance, I give you distance. The words tasted like broken glass. I meant every one. Lillian studied me under the moonlight. Finally, she said, tomorrow, you answer everything about my aunt, the Moonwell, and whoever is leaving silver traps in my woods. Yes. And tonight? Tea, I said. She nodded. Strong tea. As we walked back toward the cabin, the old stones around her property gave one faint pulse of silver-blue light. Lillian stopped. Did they just glow? Laura looked at me. My wolf went utterly silent. Yes, I said carefully. They did. Lillian tightened the blanket around herself. Adrian? Yes? I think the tea needs to be stronger. The tea was strong enough to strip varnish. Lillian drank 2 cups anyway. She sat at her kitchen table wrapped in a blanket, damp curls pinned up badly, eyes steady on me over the rim of her mug. The old stones outside had pulsed with Moonwell light less than an hour ago, and she had not screamed. She had asked for tea. That told me more about her backbone than any grand speech could have. I stood near the stove because sitting felt too much like pretending the night was normal. You're hovering, she said. I'm standing. You're standing with emotional intensity. That's my least favorite kind. Her mouth twitched, but the smile did not last. Your wolf recognized me as your mate. Yes. And your pack knows. No. Her brows lifted. They suspect, I corrected. Because werewolves are subtle. Because my control has been shit since you arrived. That earned me a quiet blink. I should have softened it. I did not. I was tired of half-truths, and Lillian deserved better than a careful version of me. The bond was not soft inside my chest. It was teeth, heat, instinct. It had been gnawing at me from the moment she stepped onto that porch with grief in her eyes and stubbornness in her spine. But instinct did not get a vote over her life. "I won't introduce you as anything you haven't chosen," I said. She studied me. "Not even if your wolf throws a tantrum. My wolf has thrown several." How dramatic. He is a territorial dick. That startled a laugh out of her. God, I liked that sound. I was not a saint. The woman had seen my dick less than 24 hours ago, called it a structural concern, fallen into my arms, then wrapped a blanket around me after watching me become a wolf. Any one of those things would have ruined a weaker man. Altogether, they had turned my thoughts into useless smoke. But then she set her mug down and became practical again. "You said I should meet your pack." "Yes." "Why?" "Because someone is hunting them. Because your aunt protected them. Because if Moonwell is responding to you, you need to know who stands on the other side of that responsibility before anyone asks you for anything." Lillian was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded once. "I'll go." Relief hit hard enough that I had to grip the counter. "But," she added, "of course. I drive my own car. I keep my phone. I leave when I want to leave. Nobody corners me, sniffs me, bows to me, or tells me I'm destined to save anyone." My mouth curved. "Sniffing is rude." "Adrian." "Yes," I said. "All of that. No one pressures you. Including you. Especially me." The next evening, she followed my truck up the mountain road toward the RedMoon Pack house. The main house sat beyond the ridge, in a valley hidden from human maps by old warding and new inconvenience. Pines crowded the slopes. Smoke rose from 3 chimneys. Warm light spilled from wide windows onto the gravel yard where pups usually chased each other until someone threatened bath time. Tonight, the yard went still when Lillian stepped out of her car. She wore a deep green sweater that hugged the soft curve of her body and dark jeans tucked into boots. Her rich brown skin caught the porch light, and her face showed exactly what I admired most about her. Fear present, brain working, spine unbent. My wolf lifted his head inside me. Mine, he thought. I shut that shit down before it reached my mouth. I came around the truck and stopped beside her, close enough to be useful, not close enough to crowd. "Everyone can hear my heartbeat, can't they?" she asked without looking at me. "Most of them." "Great, love that. Very private species." "You're doing well." "I know. I'm terrified, not incompetent." "Yes, ma'am." That time her smile stayed a little longer. The front door opened and Laura stepped out first. Smart woman, familiar face, no threat. "Lillian," she said warmly, "welcome." "Thank you. If anyone acts strange, tell me. I enjoy correcting people." Lillian looked at me. "She means that." "She does. I like her already." Inside, the pack house smelled of wood smoke, roasting meat, bread, herbs, and too many wolves trying very hard to appear casual. They failed immediately. Children stared. The elders pretended not to. My sentinels kept their backs straight and their eyes respectfully lowered, which only made the room feel more formal. I hated formality. So did Lillian, apparently, because she leaned toward me and whispered, "If this turns into a ceremony, I'm biting someone." I cleared my throat. "Pack." Every face turned to me. "This is Lillian Hart," I said, "the new owner of Ruth Hart's cabin. She is our guest. Not my mate, not the Moonwell's possible keeper, not the answer to every prayer my people had been too afraid to say aloud, our guest." A few shoulders eased, a few wolves looked disappointed. I let my gaze pass over them, calm and cold enough to make the message stick. No one would put weight on her she had not agreed to carry. Then old Mara Bell, one of our elders, and the most dangerous woman in any room containing fresh bread, came forward with flour on her hands. "Ruth's girl," Mara said softly. Lillian's expression shifted. "You knew my aunt?" "Knew her? That woman cheated at cards in my kitchen every Thursday for 20 years. Lillian's eyes widened. "Aunt Ruth played cards?" "Badly. Then she lied about it." For the first time since entering, Lillian laughed without bracing. The room exhaled. Dinner helped. Food usually did. Wolves trusted a table faster than a speech. Lillian sat between Laura and me, though I had offered her the end of the bench for an easier exit. She had noticed. She had chosen the middle anyway. That nearly undid me. She asked questions, not reckless ones, not panicked ones, practical ones. "How many traps have you found?" "7, I said. "Where?" "North Stream, Lower Ridge, East Hunting Trail." "Are there human hiking paths near them?" "2, she frowned. "So whoever placed them either doesn't care if a human gets hurt or knows how to avoid the county trails." Laura gave me a look over Lillian's head. "Yes." Exactly. Lillian was not just listening. She was mapping the threat. A pup named Toby chose that moment to trip over his own feet and dump stew directly into my lap. The room froze. Toby's little face crumpled. "Alpha, I'm sorry." I looked down at the orange smear across my jeans, then at the carrot slowly sliding toward my boot. "I've survived silver, claws, and council meetings," I said, "but carrots may be my end." The room broke into laughter. Toby giggled, mostly from relief, and Lillian grabbed a napkin before I could reach for one. "Hold still," she said. I obeyed. The pack noticed that too. Damn them all. Across the table, Laura watched Lillian with that sharp healer's gaze of hers. Later, when Lillian stepped away with Mara to look at Ruth's old recipe cards, Laura moved beside me. "She's handling this better than you are," she murmured. "I'm aware." She looked at the exits, counted the children, asked about human trails, and corrected Toby's grip on his spoon without making him feel stupid. "I'm aware of that too," Laura smiled. "He looks at you like you hung the moon, and then told him to wipe his boots before coming inside," she called to Lillian. Lillian looked back at me. I wanted to growl, not in warning, in surrender. Instead I said, "My boots are clean." "They are not," Lillian said. The pack laughed again, and something warm moved through the room. Hope, maybe. Dangerous thing. Hope made people reach. Hope made them forget that Lillian had not chosen any of this yet. When dinner ended, I walked her to her car. "You were quiet toward the end," she said. I was thinking. About how much they already like you. That sounded almost sad. It's dangerous to need someone who hasn't decided to stay. She leaned against her car door and looked up at me, steady as moonlight. "Then don't need me like that yet." A clean hit. I nodded. "Fair." Her voice softened. "But I'm glad I came." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A message from Amos, deputies at the cabin. "Found wire near the county trail. Silver. He's asking for you both." My wolf went still. Lillian saw my face change. "What happened?" "Andrew found part of a snare." Her shoulders tightened, but she did not panic. She opened her car door. "Then we go back. I'll drive ahead." "No," she said. "You'll drive normal. If Andrew already suspects you, roaring down the mountain like an angry wolfman won't help." Despite everything, I almost smiled. "Yes, ma'am." By the time we reached her cabin, Andrew Pierce stood on the porch under the yellow light, an evidence bag pinched between his fingers. Inside was a twisted piece of silver wire. His eyes went from Lillian to me. "What the hell," he said, "is going on in these woods?"
"What the hell," Andrew said, holding up the evidence bag, "is going on in these woods?" The porch light buzzed over his head. His deputy uniform was rumpled, his jaw was tight, and the little twisted loop of silver wire inside the plastic bag looked too damn familiar. Adrian went still beside me. Not tense in the obvious way. Worse, quiet, controlled. The kind of still that said every violent part of him had stepped forward and was waiting for permission. Andrew noticed. Of course he did. I moved one step between them before the testosterone could start communicating through jaw muscles. I would also love to know that, I said. Andrew's eyes flicked to me. You recognize it? I saw something like it near the stream. His expression sharpened. When? Yesterday. And you didn't call me? I was busy falling into a creek and reevaluating my life choices. Adrian's mouth twitched. Andrew did not appreciate that. This isn't funny, Lil. I know that. Do you? He held up the bag again. Because I found this off Miller's Bend, close enough to a county trail that some kid or hiker could have walked into it. It's silver-plated wire. Who the hell uses silver-plated wire for animal traps? A werewolf hunter, apparently. I did not say that because I liked Andrew alive, and not locked in a room somewhere asking if everybody in Hollow Creek had lost their damn minds. Adrian's voice was calm. Poachers sometimes use whatever they can get. Andrew looked at him. I didn't ask you. No, I said, before Adrian could answer with something polite and dangerous. But he knows the woods better than I do. Andrew's eyes came back to me, softer now, but still worried. And that's the part I don't like. You've been here less than a week, and suddenly Adrian Wolfe is at your cabin every time I show up. Because this cabin is falling apart in emotionally specific ways, I said. And because someone is putting murder jewelry in the woods. Amos snorted from the shadows near the porch rail. I turned my head. How long have you been standing there? Long enough. Were you planning to contribute? No. Helpful as always. That's my charm. Andrew looked between all of us, suspicion carving lines into his face. Lillian, I'm serious. If something is going on, you need to tell me. I will tell you what I know when I actually know it. That sounds rehearsed. It was improvised under stress, so be kind. His mouth tightened like he wanted to argue, but he knew me well enough to hear the line in my voice. He slipped the evidence bag into his jacket pocket. Call me if you find anything else, he said. I will. He looked at Adrian. And if I find out you're involved in this? You'll do your job, Adrian said. No threat, no growl. Just a statement. Somehow that made it worse. Andrew left with one last look at me, the kind that said he hated walking away but respected me enough not to drag me behind him like luggage. When his cruiser disappeared down the drive, I shut the front door and locked it. Then I turned around. Adrian stood by the window. Amos stood by the kitchen entrance. Both of them had the faces of men preparing to give me another careful, edited version of the truth. Absolutely the fuck not. Kitchen, I said. Now. Amos grunted. Sound just like Ruth when you're mad. Good, then you already know to be afraid. Adrian followed me without argument. Smart man. I planted both hands on the kitchen table and looked from one secretive mountain man to the other. No more riddles. No more deciding what I can handle. No more standing around like I'm a delicate little teacup while people set death traps around my house. My voice shook, but I did not let it break. What is under my cabin? Amos looked at Adrian. I snapped my fingers. Do not look at him. I asked you. For the first time since I'd met him, Amos looked ashamed. A Moonwell, he said. I waited. He sighed. It's old. Older than the town. Older than the pack. A source in the mountain. Magic, if you want the plain word. I don't want the plain word. I want the useful one. That is the useful one, Adrian said quietly. I closed my eyes for half a second. Of course it is. Amos rubbed a hand over his face. Your aunt was the keeper. She tended the boundary, kept the protections steady. The stones outside, the marks in the cellar, the wards in the walls. All of it ties back to the Moonwell. My aunt, I said slowly, was maintaining a magical security system for werewolves. Among other things. Fantastic. Was the garden also a portal? Did the compost have opinions? Adrian's gaze softened. The compost is normal. Small mercies. Amos moved to the pantry and pushed aside an old braided rug I had assumed was covering ugly floorboards. Beneath it sat a square seam in the wood. My stomach dipped. How many times, I asked, have I walked over a secret basement? Plenty. Amos. It ain't a basement. That did not comfort me. He lifted the hidden door. Cool air breathed up from below, carrying the scent of rain, stone, and something green. Wild mint, maybe, or memory. Narrow steps descended into darkness. Adrian came to my side. You don't have to go down tonight. It's under my kitchen. I'm going down. His mouth curved faintly. I assumed. Then why say it? So you heard the choice. That shut me up for exactly 3 seconds. Then I went first, because if this was my magical murder basement, I was not entering it like a guest. The steps opened into a round chamber carved from dark stone. Symbols curved along the walls, worn smooth with age. Roots threaded through cracks overhead without breaking the ceiling. In the center sat a low basin filled with water so still it looked like glass. Silver blue light slept beneath the surface, not reflected, contained. My breath caught before I could pretend otherwise. On a small wooden chair near the wall lay a folded shawl, Aunt Ruth's, brown and gold, with a snag on one corner where I had caught it on her screen door years ago. The ache hit hard. She had sat here, alone, carrying all this while sending me birthday cards and recipes and little notes about tomato plants. Why didn't she tell me? I whispered. Amos's voice was rough. Because being needed ain't the same as being free. Ruth wanted you free first. That landed exactly where it hurt. Because wasn't that the story of my whole life? Needed by family, needed by jobs, needed by people who loved me maybe, but still reached for me like I was a tool they knew how to use. And now a magic well under my house had joined the line. I stepped closer to the basin. The water stirred. Adrian made a low sound behind me. Not warning, not fear. Wonder. Lillian, he said carefully. I see it. The symbols along the wall began to glow. Not bright, not violent, just awake. I should have stepped back. Instead, I reached out and touched the rim of the basin. The chamber answered. Light moved under my palm, warm as breath. It traveled through the stone, up the walls and into the roots, and somewhere above us, the old boundary stones hummed like they had been waiting for my hand. Adrian exhaled. His whole body changed. The constant tension in him eased, as if something inside his chest had finally unclenched. Footsteps hurried down the stairs. Laura appeared, hair loose around her shoulders, medical bag in hand. I felt that from the road. I pulled my hand back. Good or bad? Laura looked at the glowing basin, then at me. Important. I hate that answer. It's the honest one. Amos nodded toward the Moonwell. It's responding to you. Laura corrected him gently, answering her. There's a difference. I liked her more for that. I looked at Adrian. What does it cost? No one spoke too quickly. Good. Adrian came closer but stopped before touching me. The keeper is tied to the land, the boundary, and the pack's protection. It means responsibility. Danger, sometimes. It means you would feel when the boundary weakens. You would help strengthen it. And if I say no, then we find another way. Even if that hurts your pack? His jaw tightened. Yes. I believed him. That was the problem. He looked at me with those steady, impossible eyes and said, You are not a tool for my pack. You are a woman with a choice. I need you safe more than I need you useful. My throat went tight. That sentence did what magic could not. It reached the part of me that had been braced for a hand closing around my life. I turned back to the Moonwell. I'll learn. Amos's shoulders dropped. I said learn, I warned. Not accept. I am not signing a supernatural deed in my basement at midnight. Laura smiled. Reasonable. Adrian's voice was quiet. I know. Above us, my phone buzzed on the kitchen table. Once, twice, 3 times. Then came Emma's ringtone. I stared up at the ceiling. Oh, hell, I said. If she's calling this late, either somebody died or she's decided to visit. Amos grunted. Which is worse? I started up the stairs. Depends how much wine she packed.
She packed 3 bottles. I knew because Lillian answered Emma's call on speaker halfway up from the Moonwell chamber, and the first thing her friend said was, "Before you start fussing, I brought wine, snacks, and my good bra, in case this mountain has emotionally unavailable lumberjacks." Lillian stopped on the stairs. "Emma." "What? I'm 20 minutes away." Lillian closed her eyes. "Of course you are." Amos grunted behind me. "City girl." Lillian sighed. Natural disaster with lipstick. By the time Emma Brooks arrived, the cabin had been locked down, the hidden door was covered again, and I had resisted the urge to reinforce every window with steel. Barely. Emma came out of a little blue car carrying a duffel bag, a tote full of snacks, and the aggressive confidence of a woman who would fight God over her best friend. She was tall, sharp-eyed, and dressed like she had planned for both a road trip and a dramatic confrontation. She hugged Lillian hard. Then she looked at me. Her eyes moved from my boots to my shoulders to my face, and her expression turned deeply offended. "You said your neighbor was helpful," she told Lillian. "You did not say he looked like he chops wood for emotional regulation." Lillian pinched the bridge of her nose. "Please don't start. I haven't even warmed up." I offered my hand. "Adrian Wolfe." Emma shook it, grip firm. "Emma Brooks. If you murder her, I'll haunt your bloodline." "Reasonable." Her brows lifted. "Oh, I hate that you're calm. That's suspicious." "He fixes things when stressed," Lillian said. Emma's gaze narrowed. "Worse." Despite the situation, Lillian laughed. My Wolf, territorial dick that he was, settled at the sound. It did not matter that the laugh was for Emma. It mattered that Lillian had relaxed, even a little. She needed that. She needed someone who knew her before wolves, and Moonwells and silver snares. Someone who would look at all this madness and still ask if she had eaten dinner. So I left. Not far. Never far. But far enough that Lillian could sit with her friend without my presence filling the room. I spent most of the night on patrol with 2 of my sentinels, sweeping the southern tree line and finding nothing but deer tracks, old rain, and the faint metallic ghost of silver carried by the wind. By morning, I was tired, irritated, and holding 3 coffees I had absolutely fucked up. Lillian opened the door in a soft brown sweater, hair wrapped up, eyes still sleepy. My heart did something inconvenient. "I brought coffee," I said. That was either very kind or very brave. Possibly both. Emma appeared behind her wearing leggings, fuzzy socks, and the expression of a woman prepared to judge me before breakfast. "Is there sugar?" I looked at the cups. Lillian looked at me. Emma looked delighted. "You forgot," Lillian said. "I remembered the coffee." "You forgot the joy." "I can go back." She took the cup anyway. "No, I want to know what an alpha's apology tastes like." I froze. Emma's eyes sharpened. "A what?" Lillian sipped, grimaced, and recovered too fast. "An alpha male. It's a joke." Emma pointed at me. "Is it?" "No," I said. "The coffee really is bad." Lillian coughed into the cup. Emma stared between us, then smiled like she had just found a thread and fully intended to yank it later. I escaped to the porch and fixed the loose garden gate because standing still felt dangerous. The latch had worked fine yesterday. Structurally, it was innocent. Emotionally, I had doubts. I had just tightened the hinge when Andrew Pierce's cruiser rolled up the drive. My wolf came to attention, not because Andrew was a threat, because Lillian stepped onto the porch and smiled at him. "Morning, Lil," Andrew called. Lil. I hated it immediately. Lillian leaned against the porch rail. "If you brought decent coffee, I may marry you for practical reasons." Andrew lifted a paper cup. "Sweet enough to alarm your dentist." She laughed. My hand tightened around the screwdriver until the metal bent. Shit. Emma, sitting on the porch swing, noticed. Of course she did. Andrew's gaze slid to me. "Wolf. Deputy." He came up the steps and held out a hand. I shook it. Too long, not hard enough to hurt, just long enough to be a complete asshole. Lillian looked at our joined hands. "Are you two greeting each other or trying to transfer property rights?" I let go first. Andrew smiled without warmth. "Just being friendly." Emma muttered, "This porch has better programming than my streaming service." Andrew turned back to Lillian. "Can we talk?" "She can talk right here," I said. Lillian's eyes cut to me. There it was. The line. I shut my mouth. Andrew noticed that too and looked far too satisfied. "I found another piece of wire near Miller's Bend. Same as last night. I'm sending it to the county lab, but I'm telling you now, this isn't normal trapping." "I know," Lillian said. His voice lowered. "And every place I've found something strange is near land connected to him." He did not point at me. He did not need to. Emma sat straighter. Lillian's face stayed calm. "Andrew, I'm not trying to scare you," he said, "but if you feel unsafe, you can stay in town, with me or at the station, or anywhere that isn't isolated." The image hit before I could stop it. Lillian in his house. Lillian in his kitchen. Lillian laughing over his properly sweetened coffee, while I stood outside the life I wanted and deserved no claim over. My wolf snarled. I smiled. It was not a good smile. "That's generous," I said. Andrew's jaw ticked. I was talking to Lillian. "And Lillian can answer," she said, voice smooth and sharp enough to cut us both. "Which she will do after everyone remembers I'm standing here." Silence. Emma lifted her coffee. "I'm new, but I support this message." Lillian looked at Andrew. "Thank you. I'll be careful. I'll call if I need help." Then she looked at me. My stomach sank. Andrew left a few minutes later, but not before handing Lillian the coffee he brought and making her laugh again with some story about a raccoon breaking into the church pantry. I hated that raccoon. When his cruiser disappeared, Lillian turned to Emma. "Can you give us a minute?" Emma stood. "Gladly. If one of you starts peeing on trees, I'm leaving." Lillian stared at her. "Emma." "What? Boundaries matter." She went inside with her coffee and absolutely listened from the window. Lillian walked down the porch steps and past me toward the garden. I followed because I was not stupid enough to do anything else. She stopped near the mint bed. I kept my hands at my sides. She faced me. "You do not get to act territorial over me while telling me I have a choice. Pick a lane, Adrian." The words hit clean. No drama, no cruelty, truth. I looked down at the bent screwdriver in my hand, then set it on the fence post. "You're right." Her expression did not soften yet. "I know. I'm sorry." That helped, but enough. I dragged a hand through my hair. "I trust you. I do. I don't think Andrew can take you anywhere you don't want to go. I don't think you're confused or helpless or waiting for me to protect you from your own choices. But But I don't like how easily he makes you laugh. Her mouth parted a little. I kept going before pride made a coward out of me. I don't like that he knows how you take your coffee. I don't like that he can offer you a normal life while I'm standing here with werewolf problems, bad coffee, and a magical well under your kitchen. I exhaled. That is my problem, not yours. I acted like a dick. Yes, she said. You did. Fair. Then her mouth curved. And the coffee was terrible. I can improve. You better. I stepped closer, slowly enough for her to stop me. She did not. I'm not asking you to choose me because I'm jealous, I said. I don't want to win you. You're not a prize. No, she said quietly. I'm not. I want you to choose whatever is right for you, even if it guts me. Her eyes searched mine. Ask me. My pulse kicked hard. For what? Her smile was soft and brave. You know what? I did. My wolf went silent. Can I kiss you, Lillian? Yes. She stepped into me. I touched her face first, giving her every chance to change her mind. She rose on her toes, curled her fingers in my shirt, and pulled me down like she had no interest in hesitation. The kiss was not gentle for long. It started soft. A question pressed mouth to mouth. Then she answered with heat, with choice, with a little sound in her throat that went straight through me. I held her waist, not trapping her, just feeling the warm, solid reality of her under my hands. She tasted like Andrew's sweet coffee and trouble. I loved both more than I should have. My wolf did not think claim. He thought stay. That was worse. A vehicle came fast up the drive. Lillian broke the kiss with a breathless curse. If that is Andrew, I'm throwing both of you in the creek. It's Laura. The healer's truck stopped near the porch. Laura got out, face grim, boots muddy. I hate interrupting what is clearly a long overdue bad decision, she said. Lillian stepped back, but her hand stayed in mine. What happened? I asked. Laura's gaze moved to our joined hands, then to the woods. 3 more silver snares, she said. Fresh, south boundary. My blood went cold. How close? Laura looked at Lillian. Close enough, she said, that one was 50 yards from the cabin.
For one whole second, nobody moved. The woods behind my house looked the same as always. Tall pines, heavy shadows, the soft silver-blue edge of evening settling between the trunks. Pretty. Peaceful. A damn liar. Adrian's hand tightened around mine. Not enough to hurt. Enough to remind me that the man beside me was barely holding the wolf back. Inside, he said. I looked at him. His jaw flexed. Please. That one word did what an order would not have done. I nodded. Emma's inside. I know. Amos too. I know. And I'm not being shoved in a corner while everyone else handles my life. Adrian's gaze cut to mine, intense and steady. I know that too. Good. Because I was scared. My stomach had gone cold, my hands were damp, and every shadow beyond the garden suddenly looked like it had teeth. But fear did not make me stupid, and it did not make me useless. Laura moved first. I'll check the east side. No, Adrian said. Stay with Lillian. I'm the healer. You're also the only one here who can sense a ward shift before it breaks. Laura opened her mouth, then shut it. Fine. But if you get dramatic and bleed on something important, I'm charging you. Adrian's mouth twitched. Noted. He turned to me, and for a moment the danger narrowed down to the space between us. Lock the cabin, he said. Keep everyone inside. Do not open the door unless it is me, Laura, or Amos. Andrew? His expression hardened. Not unless you're sure. That landed wrong in my chest, but I understood. Andrew was human. Human meant unpredictable right now. Human meant he could be followed, tricked, or walking into a world that would ruin his sleep forever. I squeezed Adrian's hand once. Come back. His eyes softened. Then he kissed my knuckles, turned, and disappeared into the trees with the kind of speed that reminded me he was not simply a handsome man with emotional issues and a tool belt. He was a predator, and something out there had pissed him off. Laura and I hurried inside. Emma stood in the living room with a wineglass in one hand and a throw pillow in the other, like she had been preparing to defend herself with decor. What happened? She asked. I locked the door. We may have a problem. Her eyes narrowed. Lillian. Okay, we have a problem. Amos came out of the kitchen carrying an old iron box I had never seen before. Boundaries twitching, Emma pointed at him. Why does that sound like something I should already be running from? Because you got sense, Amos said. I went straight for Aunt Ruth's journals stacked near the side table. My fingers found the green one, the one with the pressed rosemary between the pages. Candles, I said. Amos grunted approval. Top pantry shelf. Emma stared at me. Why are we lighting candles? Is this a blackout or a seance? Protective wards. She blinked. Then she looked at Laura. Then Amos. Then me. Protective what? Laura's voice was calm. Wards. Emma set the wineglass down very carefully. So when you said your neighbor was hot and weird, you skipped several important details. Focus now, yell later, I said. I can multitask. I know, please don't. That got her moving. I read Aunt Ruth's instructions twice because panic made liars out of memory. If the boundary thins, seal the doors. Salt at the thresholds. Light the blue candles first, then the white. Speak the house awake. Do not invite fear in. Fear is a door too. Well, fuck. I could handle locks, candles, salt. I was less confident about not inviting fear in when people were setting silver death traps near my tomatoes. Still, I moved. Emma followed my directions without arguing, which told me she was more scared than she wanted to admit. Amos poured salt in careful white lines across the front and back doors. Laura stood in the center of the room with her eyes half closed, listening to something the rest of us could not hear. The first sound came from the north wall. A scrape. Slow. Deliberate. Emma froze. Please tell me that was a raccoon. No, Amos said. Amos, I am begging you to develop a comforting lie. Another scrape. Then the windows rattled. Not from wind, from pressure. The old stones outside began to hum, low and uneven, like a song being choked. Laura's eyes snapped open. They cut through part of the south boundary. My heart punched against my ribs. They're close? I asked. Yes, Emma whispered. Who is they? Bad people, I said, because it was the fastest answer. She gave me an offended look. That is cartoonishly unhelpful. The back doorknob turned. Once, twice, then something slammed into it hard enough to shake the frame. Emma screamed. I wanted to scream too. Instead, I lit the blue candle with shaking hands. The flame caught high and bright, burning silver blue instead of orange. The whole cabin breathed. Not metaphorically. The walls creaked. The floorboards warmed under my feet, and the hidden door beneath the pantry rug pulsed once like a heartbeat. Amos looked at me. Now speak. What? The house knows you. Tell it what to do. I stared at him. Could you maybe stop saying life-changing shit like it's obvious? Another slam hit the back door. Wood cracked. Laura moved toward it, claws sliding from her fingertips. Emma made a strangled sound. Nope, no, absolutely the hell not. Emma, I said. She has knives coming out of her hands, Lillian. I know. You know? Breathe. I am breathing with judgment. The absurdity of it nearly broke me, but the journal was warm in my hand, and Aunt Ruth's handwriting sat steady on the page. Speak the house awake. So I did. This is Ruth Hart's house, I said, voice shaking at first. This is my house now. Nothing comes in that means harm. Nothing reaches the Moonwell without my permission. The candle flames leaned toward me. My skin prickled. The slam came again. The back door split down the middle, but it did not open. Something outside hissed, low and furious. Not wolf. Human. A man's voice muttered, "Keepers awake." Another voice answered, "Then cut deeper." A cold line of dread ran through me. They knew what I was, or what I might become. The kitchen window shattered. Laura moved so fast I barely saw her. 1 second she was in the living room. The next she had caught a black-gloved hand reaching through the broken glass. Bone cracked. The man outside cursed. "Touch my patient's house again," Laura said pleasantly, "and I'll remove the hand." Emma stared. "I love her." Then the woods exploded with snarls. Not dog sounds, not animal sounds. Wolf sounds. Huge, furious, close. The pressure on the cabin vanished. Amos yanked the curtain aside just enough for us to see. Moonlight flashed over dark fur between the trees. RedMoon wolves moved like shadows with teeth, driving 3 figures away from the cabin. The attackers wore dark clothes, masks, and heavy boots. One carried a hooked blade that glinted wrong. Silver. Then Adrian came out of the trees, not in wolf form, human, and more terrifying for it. His shirt was gone, his eyes burned gold, and blood streaked one side of his ribs where Silver had kissed him. He moved with controlled violence, no wasted motion, no roaring, no wild rage. One attacker lunged at him with the blade. Adrian caught the man's wrist, twisted, and broke it like a dry stick. The scream cut through the night. Emma whispered, "Jesus." I could not look away. This was the part of Adrian he had never tried to show me. Not because he was ashamed, I realized. Because he was careful. Because his tenderness was real. But so was this. This deadly, precise, beautiful monster. He did not enjoy hurting them. He simply did what had to be done. One attacker threw something toward the porch. A small metal canister hit the ground and burst open, spilling smoke that made Laura curse. "Silver ash!" Amos shoved me back from the window. "Down!" The wolves scattered. The attackers ran. Adrian started after them, but stopped when one of his wolves yelped from the tree line. He chose his pack over the chase without hesitation. That choice made my chest ache. The smoke thinned slowly. By the time Amos opened the front door, Adrian was already on the porch steps, breathing hard, blood sliding down his side. I stepped toward him. He held up one hand. "Don't touch the blood. Silver residue." "Then stop bleeding." His mouth curved despite everything. "I'll put that on my list." Laura pushed past me. "Sit down before I make you." Adrian actually sat. Alpha or not, smart man. I went to the porch rail and looked down. Near the broken flower pot lay a torn patch of black fabric. Something white was printed on it. Not a logo, exactly. A symbol. A circle split by a vertical line, with 3 small marks beneath it. Amos saw it and went still. "What is that?" I asked. He did not answer fast enough. "Amos." His voice came out rough. "Old hunter sign, not local." Laura's expression darkened. "Trackers." Emma hugged herself. "Trackers of what?" No one answered. A cruiser tore up the drive, lights flashing but siren off. Andrew. "Oh no," I whispered. He got out with his gun already drawn. "Lillian!" "I'm here," I called. "I'm okay." Then one of the injured RedMoon wolves shifted near the tree line, right in front of him. Fur pulled back. Bones changed. A wolf became a naked, bleeding man kneeling in the grass. Andrew stopped dead. His gun swung up, straight at Adrian. "Get away from her," he barked. Adrian rose slowly. Too slowly. A growl built in his chest. I stepped between them. Every person on that porch went still. "Andrew," I said, calm because somebody had to be, "lower the gun." His face looked wrecked. "Lillian, move." "No. That thing is Adrian." His eyes flicked to the blood on Adrian's ribs, the broken window, the wolves in the yard, Emma shaking behind me, Amos holding a shotgun like he had been born annoyed. "Lil," Andrew said, voice cracking. "What the hell is happening?" "Adrian," I said without looking back. "If you growl, I swear I will make both of you sit on the porch until you remember how to behave." Silence. Then behind me, Adrian exhaled. The growl stopped. Andrew's hands shook, but the gun lowered. Not all the way. Enough. I took one careful breath, then another. The boundary stones around the cabin flickered weakly in the dark, and somewhere beneath my feet, the Moonwell pulsed like it was waiting for my answer. The gun lowered. Not all the way. Enough. Nobody breathed like that solved anything. Andrew stood in my yard with his service weapon pointed at the ground, his face wrecked, his eyes bouncing between Adrian, the bleeding naked man kneeling near the trees, and the enormous wolves still moving through the shadows like nightmares with fur. Emma stood behind me whispering, "Nope, nope, absolutely the fuck not." Like prayer had failed her and denial was the next available religion. I kept my hands up. "Andrew," I said, "I need you to listen before you panic." He laughed once, sharp and ugly. "Before I panic?" "Yes. A man just turned into a wolf. I saw. He was a wolf, Lillian." "I know." Andrew's mouth opened, then shut. His grip tightened on the gun. Adrian made the mistake of stepping closer. I snapped, "Do not." He stopped immediately. Good man. Wrong damn moment. Laura crouched near the injured wolfman and threw a blanket over his lap with the brisk energy of a doctor who had lost all patience for modesty and trauma. "Micah, if you bleed on my boots, I'm telling your mother," the man groaned. "Please don't." Emma pointed a trembling finger at him. "He has a mother?" Laura glanced up. "Most people do." "That is not my issue, Claw Hands." Laura looked at her own fingers, where the claws had thankfully slid away. "Fair." Andrew swallowed hard. "What are you?" Adrian's voice was calm behind me. "Werewolves." I closed my eyes. "You could have eased into that." He asked. "You are terrible at this." "I've been told." Andrew stared at us like we had both lost our minds and invited him to the party. "Werewolves." "Yes," I said. "And no, before you ask, I have not been bitten. No, they are not eating hikers. No, you cannot arrest mythology. That is not funny. I know. I'm scared. And when I'm scared, my mouth gets disrespectful." Emma muttered, "Her mouth has been disrespectful since 2008. I looked back at her. "Not now." "Fine. Later." The boundary stones flickered again, weak silver-blue pulses rolling through the dark. The Moonwell answered beneath my feet like a second heartbeat, steady but strained. Amos stepped onto the porch with his shotgun low in his hands. "We need everybody inside." Andrew's eyes cut to him. "You knew." Amos didn't blink. "Yep." "You knew and never reported this? To who? Animal control?" Emma made a strangled sound that was almost a laugh. I pointed toward the cabin. "Inside. All of you. Andrew, safety on. Adrian, sit down before Laura has a fit. Emma, get blankets. Amos, tea or shotgun, pick one." Amos grunted. "Can do both?" "Of course you can." For some damn reason, they listened. 10 minutes later, my kitchen looked like a supernatural emergency room, held together by salt lines, broken glass, and pure stubbornness. Laura worked on Adrian's ribs at the table. His jaw stayed tight, but he did not flinch, even when she cleaned silver ash from the wound, and the smell of burned skin made my stomach twist. I stood beside him, because leaving him alone with pain felt wrong. "You can squeeze my hand," I said. His eyes lifted to mine. "I might break it." "Then don't be a dick." His mouth twitched. "I'll do my best." Across the room, Andrew sat in a chair with both hands wrapped around a mug of tea he had not touched. Emma stood near him with a blanket around her shoulders, and her phone clutched like she might call somebody, though who the hell she planned to call for werewolf drama. I had no idea. Ghostbusters, maybe. Amos set the torn black patch on the table. The symbol stared up at us. A circle cut by a vertical line with 3 marks beneath it. "What is it?" I asked. Amos rubbed a hand over his jaw. "Old hunter mark." Andrew's head jerked up. "Hunters?" "Not deer hunters," Laura said. Adrian's voice went flat. "Men who track anything they think shouldn't exist." Emma stared at the symbol. "So, hate group with arts and crafts." "Close enough," I said. Andrew looked sick. "Humans are doing this?" Adrian met his stare. "Yes." That quiet yes did more than any speech could have. Andrew looked down at his badge like it had become heavier. "All these reports," he said slowly. "Missing hikers, strange attacks, silver wire. I thought I was chasing an animal." "You were chasing men," Adrian said. "Men who know about you." "Yes." Andrew dragged a hand over his face. "Christ," I turned to Amos. "You know more." His shoulders went stiff. I gave him the look Aunt Ruth would have been proud of. "Do not make me ask twice tonight." For once, he did not argue. He went to the pantry, lifted the braided rug, but instead of opening the hidden door, he reached beneath the lowest shelf and pulled loose a narrow board. Behind it sat a leather-wrapped book tied with twine. My chest tightened. Aunt Ruth's handwriting was on the front. For Lillian. If the boundary breaks. I stared at it. Anger came first. Hot, sharp anger. Because everyone had known enough to prepare for this moment except me. Then grief followed right behind it, quieter and worse. Amos placed the journal in my hands. "I promised her," he said, voice rough. "Not until you had a choice." I looked at him. "No more promises that leave me blind." He nodded. "No more." I untied the twine with fingers that shook no matter how much I hated it. The first pages were names. Women in my family, Hart women going back generations. Some had lived in Hollow Creek, some had left, some had returned. Beside one name, Aunt Ruth had written, "Bridge Keepers, Human Blood, Moonwell Bond, chosen only by consent, never by force." I sat down before my knees could embarrass me. Emma came to stand behind me, reading over my shoulder. "Your aunt had witch handwriting," respectfully. "She was a nurse," I said. "That explains the emotional damage." I turned the page. "The keeper does not belong to the wolves. She does not belong to the Moonwell. She stands between. She guards the threshold. If she accepts, she will feel the land as warning, not as chains. If she refuses, the Moonwell will sleep and the boundary will fade. The pack can survive, but they will be exposed." My throat closed. I kept reading. "Lillian, if you are reading this, I am sorry. I wanted you to have a life that was yours before this place asked anything of you. You have spent too long being necessary to people who forgot you were a person. Do not stay because they need you. Need can become a cage. Stay only if you are chosen. Stay only if you choose." The room blurred. I pressed my palm flat to the page like I could reach through ink and paper and touch her hand one more time. Damn her. Damn her for knowing me that well. Adrian's chair scraped softly. He crouched beside me, careful not to touch until I looked at him. "If you want to leave," he said, "I will take you anywhere. Tonight." The kitchen went silent. I stared at him. "The boundary is failing." "I know. Your pack is in danger. I know. The Moonwell responded to me. I know. And you'd still let me go?" His eyes held mine. Gold still lingered there, not human enough, not wolf enough, completely him. "I don't let you do anything," he said. "You decide. I stand by it." That hurt in a way love was not supposed to hurt. Beautiful and terrifying. "What about the mate bond?" I whispered. His jaw flexed. "Fate doesn't outrank your choice." Emma made a tiny sound behind me, and I knew she was trying not to cry because she would rather fight a mountain than be emotionally observed. Andrew stood slowly. If she wants to leave, I can get her out. I can put her somewhere safe. Adrian looked at him. For a second, I expected teeth. Instead, Adrian nodded once. Good. Andrew blinked, clearly not ready for cooperation. I almost laughed. Laura tied off the bandage around Adrian's ribs. The pack can move deeper into the territory if we have to. We'll lose protection. People may get hurt. But that is not your fault, Lillian. Amos added, Ruth would haunt every one of us if we made you think it was. I looked around my damaged kitchen. Broken window, salt at the doors, blood on the floorboards. My best friend wrapped in a blanket. My oldest friend holding impossible truth in both hands. A healer with claws. A gruff old man who loved my aunt enough to keep secrets badly. And Adrian. Adrian who wanted me but would not take. Needed me but would not use. Chose me before asking me to choose anything. And beneath us, the Moonwell waited. Not pulling, not demanding. Waiting. I closed the journal. I'm angry, I said. Amos nodded. You got cause. I'm scared. Emma snorted softly. If you weren't, I'd slap you. I don't know everything yet. Laura smiled. No keeper ever does. I looked at Adrian. And I am not accepting a magical life sentence in the middle of the night because some hunter assholes threw smoke at my porch. Reasonable, he said. But I'm not leaving. His breath caught. Just once. Small enough that maybe nobody else noticed. I did. This house is mine, I said. Not because it was handed to me. Because I am choosing it. These woods, this town, this ridiculous pack, this terrifying well under my kitchen, and you. Adrian's gaze softened until it nearly ruined me. I love you, I said, because there was no neat way to ease into the truth. And if you make a big dramatic alpha speech right now, I will kiss you just to shut you up. His mouth curved. I love you too. Good answer. Andrew looked away, jaw tight, but when he looked back, his eyes were steady. What do you need from me? He asked. That was when I knew he had crossed the line with us. Not comfortably. Not easily. But by choice. I opened Aunt Ruth's journal again and turned to the page marked with pressed rosemary. We make a plan, I said. Emma helps me decode this. Andrew keeps humans away from the mountain without asking questions he can't explain in a report. Laura treats the wounded. Amos tells me every damn thing he's been sitting on. Amos grunted. Bossy. Alive, I corrected. Adrian rose beside me, one hand pressed lightly over his bandaged ribs. And me? I looked toward the dark window, where the weak boundary lights flickered between the trees. You, I said, teach me how to protect my home before they come back. The Moonwell pulsed once beneath the floor. This time I did not pretend not to hear it. The sound moved through the cabin like a heartbeat under wood and stone, steady and patient. Waiting. Not pushing. Not begging. Just waiting for me to decide what kind of woman I wanted to be. I looked at Adrian. You teach me how to protect my home before they come back. His eyes held mine for a long second. Then he nodded. We start now. So we did. For the next few hours, my cabin became part war room, part supernatural study hall, and part emotional support disaster. Emma sat cross-legged on my living room floor, with 3 of Aunt Ruth's journals open around her, a highlighter between her teeth, and a glass of wine at her elbow. I just want the record to show, she said, that when I imagined visiting you in the mountains, I pictured ugly curtains, and maybe a disappointing farmer's market. Not decoding magical instructions, while werewolves bleed on the furniture. Laura, who was stitching Micah's shoulder near the fireplace, did not look up. He is bleeding on a towel. That towel had ducks on it. Micah winced. Sorry. Emma pointed at him. You're forgiven because you turned into a wolf, and I am still processing that with grace. You screamed for 6 minutes, Amos said from the kitchen. That was graceful compared to what my spirit wanted to do. Andrew stood by the front window, arms crossed, badge clipped at his belt, eyes locked on the woods. He looked exhausted and angry. and scared in a way he was trying hard to bury under duty. I knew that look. Hollow Creek men wore it like a uniform. "I can keep people off the mountain road tonight," he said. "Downed tree, gas leak, whatever excuse sticks. But if shots are fired, the county will come." "Then we avoid shots," Adrian said. Andrew glanced at him. "Easy for you to say." Adrian's mouth barely moved. "I was shot once. Didn't enjoy it." Emma lifted her glass. "Werewolf humor is very dry." "Alpha humor," Laura corrected. "The rest of us are delightful." Under any other circumstances, I might have laughed, but the moon was rising, and the boundary stones outside my cabin were flickering like tired candles. Amos led us down to the Moonwell chamber after midnight. The hidden stairs were cool beneath my bare feet. Adrian walked behind me, one hand near my back but not touching, like he was ready to catch me if I slipped and ready to let me walk if I did not. That was him. Always close, never closing around me. The chamber looked different beneath the full moon. Silver blue light spilled from cracks in the stone basin, climbing the walls in thin glowing veins. Aunt Ruth's symbols shimmered faintly along the floor. I opened her final journal to the marked page. "The keeper must choose aloud. Blood is not required. Pain is not required. Fear is not proof of devotion. The Moonwell answers consent, not sacrifice." I swallowed hard. "Well," I whispered, "at least ancient magic has better boundaries than half the men I dated." Adrian's breath brushed my ear. "I'd like names." I glanced back. "Don't be a dick." "I'm being emotionally curious." "You're being murder curious." "A little." Despite myself, I smiled. Then the smile faded. "What if I mess it up?" I asked. "You won't." "You don't know that." "No," he said quietly. "I know you." That did something painful and sweet inside my chest. Amos cleared his throat near the stairs. "I'll be upstairs. Holler if the magic starts acting smug." I frowned. "Can magic act smug?" "This one can." He left us alone. For a moment there was only the hum of the Moonwell, the quiet creak of the cabin above us, and Adrian standing close enough that I could feel the heat of him. I turned to face him. "You should rest before they come. So should you." "I'm not the one healing from silver burns." His gaze dropped to my mouth. "No, you're just the woman holding my sanity together." My breath caught. That was the thing about Adrian. He could stand there looking like something carved out of danger and moonlight, then say something so tender it knocked the fight right out of me. I touched the bandage at his ribs, carefully. "I don't want tonight to be all fear." His expression shifted. Not into hunger first, into understanding. He stepped closer slowly. "Then it won't be." When he kissed me, it was not hurried. It was not desperate. It was a promise made with his mouth against mine, with his hands warm at my waist, with the slow, reverent care of a man who knew the world might split open above us and still chose tenderness before war. I chose him back, not because of the bond, not because of the Moonwell. Because when I reached for him, he came to me like being wanted by me was the greatest honor of his life. We made it upstairs somehow. My room was dim and warm, the old quilt turned down, moonlight spilling across the floorboards. Outside, wolves guarded the tree line. Inside, Adrian looked at me like I was home. "Tell me if you want to stop," he said. "I know. I need to hear it." I cupped his face. "If I want to stop, I'll tell you. If I want more, I'll tell you that too." His eyes darkened. "Good." So I told him. With my hands, with my mouth, with every slow, deliberate kiss that made his breath break and his control unravel piece by piece. I learned the weight of him, the heat of him, the way his body trembled when I loved him without fear. Watching Adrian Wolfe lose words was a satisfaction I planned to remember forever, and when he could stand it no more, he pulled me close with a rough whisper of my name, not as command, not as claim, as worship. Then he took his time with me. Lord, did that man take his time. He kissed me like he had nowhere else to be, like the world could wait outside with its hunters and silver and old magic. His mouth found softness and heat. His hands learned me with patient hunger, and every place I had once thought too much became something he cherished without hesitation. I forgot fear. I forgot duty. For a little while there was no keeper, no alpha, no boundary breaking in the dark. There was only Adrian above me, beside me, wrapped around me. Slow, deep. Careful until I asked him not to be. Loving until I came apart under him and found him right there with me, breathing hard, eyes bright, my name still on his lips. Afterward, we lay tangled in the quiet, sweat cooling on our skin, my cheek against his chest. His heartbeat was not steady. Neither was mine. Still with me? He murmured. I smiled against him. Barely. You may have damaged my ability to form opinions. That would be unfortunate. I like your opinions. You say that now. I say that always. I lifted my head. Adrian? Yes. If tonight goes bad, it won't. If it does, I insisted, I need you to remember that standing beside me means actually standing beside me. Not locking me in a pantry, not throwing me over your shoulder, not making some noble alpha male decision to suffer alone. His mouth tightened. I poked his chest. I mean it. I love you, but I will haunt you with casseroles. A laugh broke out of him, soft and startled. That is very specific. I'm a specific woman. His hand slid up my back. I know, and I promise. Above us, something struck the cabin. Hard. The windows rattled. Adrian was out of bed before I finished breathing. So much for peace. I grabbed my robe, then my jeans, because if I was going to face ancient magic and hunter assholes, I refused to do it half naked. By the time we reached the hall, Emma was already shouting from downstairs. Lillian, the creepy rocks are doing creepy rock things. Adrian looked at me. I looked at him. Go, I said. He hesitated for exactly 1 second. Then he went. I followed at a practical speed because stairs were still stairs, and dying from falling on my ass before the final battle would have been embarrassing. The cabin shook again. Downstairs, Andrew's voice snapped through the chaos. Roads blocked. 2 trucks tried to come up from Miller's Bend. I turned them around, but there are more in the woods. Laura stood by the broken kitchen window, eyes glowing. They're pushing the south line. Amos shoved Aunt Ruth's journal into my hands. Chamber. Now. Emma grabbed my arm. Tell me what to do. I looked at her, my beautiful, dramatic best friend who had stayed even after learning my neighbor was a werewolf, and my basement was a magical security system. Keep the candles lit, I said. If one goes out, relight it. If anyone tries to get inside, throw salt first, and questions never. She nodded. Salt first. Questions never. Got it. The front door slammed open. Adrian stood on the porch in wolf form. Massive. Dark. Golden-eyed. Behind him, the RedMoon Pack moved through the yard like living shadows, holding the line between my cabin and the men advancing through the trees. One of the hunters stepped into the moonlight. He wore the same symbol on his jacket. A circle split by a vertical line, 3 marks beneath. In his hand was a silver blade. In his other, a glass vial filled with something black. The Moonwell screamed beneath my feet. Not a sound. A feeling. I staggered. Adrian's wolf snarled so violently the porch boards vibrated. The hunter smiled. Keeper, he called. Open the well, and we may let the wolves run. I laughed. I could not help it. It came out sharp and furious. Men really will break into your yard and act like they're offering a favor, Emma yelled from behind me. Tell that dick to get off your property. The hunter's smile vanished. Good. I turned and ran for the hidden stairs, Amos at my side. Below, the Moonwell chamber blazed. The basin was no longer waiting quietly. Light poured from it, wild and silver blue, reflecting across the walls like moonlit water. Amos stopped at the edge of the stairs. Your choice, Lillian. Still yours. I held Aunt Ruth's journal against my chest. Above me, wolves snarled. Men shouted. Glass shattered. Andrew barked orders like he was holding the human world back, nothing but a badge and stubbornness. Adrian roared. My Adrian. My choice. My home. I stepped to the Moonwell. I am not staying because I'm needed, I said, voice shaking but clear. I am staying because I choose this land. I choose this house. I choose the RedMoon Pack. I choose the line between worlds. The water inside the basin rose without being touched. Warm light slid over my hands. And I choose Adrian Wolfe, I whispered. Not because fate handed him to me, because he loved me without trying to own me, the Moonwell answered. Power rushed up through the stone, through my feet, through my bones. The cabin groaned above me, not breaking, waking. Every symbol on the walls ignited. Amos sucked in a breath. Well, hell. The light shot upward, through the ceiling, through the cabin, into the woods. For one perfect second, everything outside went silent. Then the boundary rose.
I didn't grow up knowing what love looked like. Just slammed doors in silence on cold nights. I learned to keep my guard up high, smile wide while I was breaking inside. Then you came in without asking why. Saw the fear I wore behind my eyes. You didn't try to fix or change my pace. You just stayed and gave me space. You're my safe place when I fall apart. You don't run, you hold my heart. In a world that never stayed, you're the only one who never walked away. You're more than love, you're home to me. I don't need perfect, I just need real. And with you, I finally feel. You saw the mess and stayed the same. Now I say your name like a prayer in the rain. Then you came in there without asking why. Saw the fear I wore behind my eyes. You didn't try to fix or change my pace. You just stayed and gave me space. You're my safe place when I fall apart. You don't run, you hold my heart. In a world that never stayed, you're the only one who never walked away. You're more than love, you're home to me. You're home to me. I don't need perfect, I just need real. And with you, I finally feel. You saw the mess and stayed the same. Now I say your name like a prayer in the rain. Then you came in without asking why. Saw the fear I wore behind my eyes. You didn't try to fix or change my pace. You just stayed and gave me space. You're my safe place when I fall apart. You don't run, you hold my heart. In a world that never stayed, you're the only one who never walked away. You're more than love, you're home to me.